Hey there, guys. Today we're discussing which color I think is the worst in EDH.
But just before we get into the video for today, if you are enjoying the content that I'm putting out there, please do consider subscribing, turning on that notifications. It really helps us out. But with that being said, let's get right on into the video for today.
Alrighty, so today we're discussing which color I think is the worst in EDH. Now, I know that MTG Goldfish recently put out a podcast video that they were discussing which color they thought was the worst. Now, I'm aware of this. I actually haven't seen the actual video. I know what they actually kind of said in it, at least to a degree. I'm not trying to debate them or whatever, things like that. I just kind of had the same idea, and then I saw that they did it, and then I was like, oh, okay, well, I just want to put in this little disclaimer here just to make sure people understand, hey, look, I had the same rough idea, because, it's been a discussion for a long time that, red and white were the worst colors. And then people were just like, nah, you know what? White is the worst color. For a long time, people have been saying white is the worst color in EDH. And I'm here to sort of, just give my slight perspective and opinion on this, just to sort of, say where I kind of stand and give you a few examples of, why I think that. And I'll get into a more elongated discussion after I sort of give those impressions and whatnot initially and whatnot. But let's get right into it and let's, reveal it. It's red. Sorry, red. And sorry to anyone who plays red and likes red. I'm not saying red can't be good. I just find that red is the worst color, and I never have any luck with playing red. I never find that many red cards. Not that there's none, and there's certainly some interesting new ones. And I'm talking about red only cards. Again, I'm not talking about a Jund card, because that card also contains green and black. Yes, it technically is red as well, but that's not what makes it intrinsically red. It's red if it's a red card. Yes, I'm happening to run this one Jund card in my 5-color deck. Oh boy, where's the rest of the red in the deck? I basically have none. That's the kind of perspective that I kind of find when I come to build with red. There's maybe 1, 2, or 3, maybe 4 or 5 at the most cards that I ever find their way into my decks when I'm building in red, and I barely ever build into red because I go, well, what's in red that I could build into? And then go, well, maybe 5 or 6 cards? And then I'm going, oh, okay, well, um, uh, I need more cards for the deck than that, and it feels like I can almost especially with my mana base, be like, dude, I could basically just run maybe 3 red basic lands. I basically need to run 0 red basic, lands in this deck because I basically have no red in this deck because there's hardly any good red cards. So it's just wow, in comparison, and this is where I'm going to start getting into some of these things here is and if you guys want to, wander off now, I'm going to just get into more of a discussion about some of the things about that just for a little while. But I know some people aren't super interested in all of that sort of stuff, so I will say, hey, I won't be mad if you guys tune out. But anyway, if you look at the progression of some of the cards in the past 2-3 years, I think since probably Return to Ravnica-ish, or Return to Ravnica-ish, let's say that. Return to Ravnica 3, or whatever it was, or Return to Ravnica 2, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. But anyway, that time period, War of the Spark time period, that kind of time period. If you look back to that time period, like Ixalan and all that sort of stuff, then certainly the number of cards that red was getting in comparison to the number of cards that white was kind of getting that were, clearly very good for EDH, like Jessica's Will. And Professional Facebreakers is really one that sort of stands out as a really good recent addition to red. Things like that. Again, like I'm saying, there's no good red cards. There certainly are some good red cards, but it seems like those red cards are almost exclusively only just good in red or in very specific decks. Like, yes, that's really good in Prosper Tomebound decks and whatnot, but that's a very specific deck, and that's one deck. Again, and again, I know that's kind of Red's thing, and that's what they kind of gave it. They gave it that exiling based, card advantage, card selection type, rummaging kind of thing that they liked and whatnot, and that was cool. Whatnot. There were certainly some other cards that were really good and really powerful and whatnot. Valakut Exploration, I think that's actually a pretty underrated card. Or whatever, all these other stuff. Like, not again that you can't build a good red deck. I've seen many really powerful, like, red decks, but I never find that red's that useful when I'm building decks. I don't know. I think it's definitely the least supported color now, and that's what I mean by the worst. And that's what I mean by saying, like, white has gotten so much stuff in the past, like, half a year, maybe, or so. Yeah, probably half a year or so. Because it was getting a few trinkets here and there of stuff, but in the last couple sets, especially the last couple masters or, made for EDH sort of sets more so, they have expanded a lot of what they were willing to, like, give white in comparison to what they were willing to give it in standard or modern, pioneer, all of that sort of stuff. And I think they realized that, hey, in Commander and in those formats, it's a completely different ball game. You really need to have all of these different things going on in your color pies identity somewhere for you at least to be able to compete with all of the other decks or, what's going on. White has gotten several cards that deal with either ramp, draw, or both. And it has actually gotten, legit, playable, synergistic commanders, legit synergistic cards into its, color pie. And yes, again, like, everyone will talk about how good Smothering Tithe is, but I think Smothering Tithe is only good with wheels, which are in every color but white, pretty much. But again, like, there's that new is it Bootlegger's Stash or is it Bootlegger's something, whatever it's called, that new one. I still haven't learned all the names of them, so I might do a video on that one too, just to try to hammer it into my brain, because there's so many ones that are called Bootleggers or something like that, that I haven't quite remembered what they're all called. But anyway, hopefully you all guys know what I'm talking about. But that one's pretty darn decent. Again, it's another one of those white catch-up cards. But even so, there's so many of those white catch-up cards now that I think white has way more of those catch-up cards than what, red has for any kind of synergies in its colors that you would actually go, you know what, I can build around this and I can do stuff with this. And again, I'm not going to say that every color needs to have everything, but just red's suite of removal isn't nearly as good as any of the other colors. Like even blue has some creature removal and some artifact removal. So, like, yeah, sure, red has a braid, sure, so you can kill something really small, or you can kill an artifact. I mean, if you have liquid metal torque, yeah, sure, you can kill anything, but, like, that's the same if I have, like, Resculpt. Like, if I turn somebody's thing into an artifact, wow, now I can turn your land into a 4/4. So, like, things like that. I can turn your Gaia's Cradle into a 4/4. Oh, wow, look at that. Or I can turn whatever. What's the Gaia's Cradle on the stick? I can't remember its name either, actually. But anyway, I can turn that into a 4/4. Okay, So, like, but just like, the number of things that White already kind of had, it had a lot of good single target removal, had a lot of good wraths, but that was about it. And it had some live game, which, sure. But that's always been the problem with White, was that there was no real synergies within, like, the color. You couldn't really do per se anything with it. Like, nothing would happen. Like, oh, okay, I can play Voltron, or maybe I can play Shram, but I guess I'm playing Voltron Shram, or maybe I'm playing Vehicles Shram, which now how am I going to crew all my vehicles when I have a 1 power or 2 power dude or whatever it is? Um, um, uh, so, like, and, like, Red had way more commanders before that you could go, okay, cool, I can build around this, or I can do stuff with this. I can figure out, okay, Torbrun, let's run all of these, like, pingers and, spells that, hit my opponents for so much damage. Let's run, what's his name, Neheb, and get a whole bunch of mana from, hitting our opponents, making, more damage to our opponents, and, win the game and things like that. Like, it's really gross. But it's also really explosive, but also just doesn't last. It's not consistent, like, enough. Like, you can get those times where you're like, okay, no one really was able to oppose me, and I just won the game in 5 seconds because, hey, look, I'm running all the things with damage and getting free mana for damaging people. Woot. Dot deck, basically, because Neheb, Torbrand, and, like, a lot like that basically play the same. Like, you basically have to run them always together because they're just so powerful together and things like that. So, but anyway, when you look at what White's gotten in the last few years, it has bumped up quite a bit. It has gotten quite a bevy, I guess is the right way to put it, of things that it has gotten. And that has pushed it way above what Red has in terms of things. Yes, sure, it's not as perhaps explosive as what Red is. Perhaps that's just me and not really liking that sort of style of gameplay or whatnot. I don't mind being aggressive, but I just don't like, I guess, burn or life drain. That's one thing that I think sort of came up here and there. That's one kind of, like, strategy that I don't like. And plus, like, I'm not a huge fan of tribal, and basically the only other thing you can do in Red was, like, Goblin tribal. So it just never really, or Dragon tribal. And when you can do 5-color dragons, it's just like, well, why am I doing this monocolor tribal dragons or whatever? Might as well do 5 colors. Then I have access to all the best dragons and things like that. So, but anyway, like, again, green obviously is the best color in MTG right now, even though it doesn't have single target removal or wraths, really. It can do literally everything else. It has all the mana it would need. It has all the really good creatures that it could need. It has all the card draw that it could need. So, what's missing from green is wraths and removal. So then you go, well, either blue, black, or white are the next colors that I would add to my green deck because, well, those colors have, the best single target removal, or the best board wipes. White having the best board wipes and single target removal, pretty much. Black's kind of gotten some really good single target removal in the last couple years, I guess, since Midnight Hunt-ish. Or maybe since Ikoria-ish, maybe. Depends. You could debate me on that if you really want to. But anyway, and Blue had I didn't really realize how good Pongify and Reality Shift were, and things like that, and rapid hybridization. Like, they're insane. They're so insanely good. And I think that's probably because, like, counter spells and control and that sort of thing overshadow Blue's kind of pie of the removal, and you kind of don't think of Blue as a removal kind of color either. So it's certainly one of those things where it's like, yeah, Blue actually does have a whole lot of actually really good single target removal. Hey, Cyclonic Rift, basically the boogeyman of the format. Hey, you know what color that is? Blue. What's the next best kind of board wipe next to that? Probably like Winds of Abandon, which is basically White's version of, that whole thing. Least in my opinion, I think it is. It's really, really good. Especially if you can crack in for the win right after it, which is 9 times out of 10 kind of what I hope to do. And probably 8 times out of 10 what kind of happens with it, with me at least. And the other 2 times is like, well, I've just got to kill everything. Oh, wow, everything's back on the field again. Jeez. Or everything, more stuff's on the field again. Oh, well, guess I need another Wrath. But it does give your opponents those resources, which is one of those things when you're far behind, it's like, well, they're going to get them eventually, like, type thing. And, like, in some circumstances, you can be like, well, you know what? If you have, what is it, an artifact or is it an enchantment? I can't remember which. That says an opponent mills until they hit a basic land or something. I can't remember the name of it. Maybe it's a spell, but I can't remember. Anyway, there's that basically if you say, oh, well, you got all your basics out of your deck. Oh, that's cool. How about you mill till you hit a basic land? Like, so just mill my whole deck? Yeah, just mill your whole deck. Thank you. Oh, look at that. Your whole deck's gone. What happened there? Oh, no. What's that? It's your turn? Oh, you're dead. Oh. So there's some dirty things, like, in a sense, that you can kind of do with some of those things if you have the right cards and things like that. So, like, I don't play that way again, but, there are some things that you can kind of do with that sort of make it way better than what it sort of sounds like or whatnot in those circumstances that it is bad, and things like that. So it's one of those things, like, again. But anyway, when you look at what Red has, it has Blasphemous Act, but White has, what's that new one? Vanquish the Horde? Which I think is just way better than Blasphemous Act. Yeah, Blasphemous Act 9 times out of 10, or maybe 9.5 times out of 10 will kill nearly everything. But yeah, and so I'm guessing so will, like, Vanquish the Horde. It will probably 9.9 times out of 10 kill nearly everything, or pretty much kill everything. So, ham and eggs to a degree, or apples and oranges to a degree, but I just find that that's a lot cleaner. Not that I run it, because I just don't like that. That's not kind of the spell that I kind of want, even though it's so efficient. I feel like I never want to set myself back. I always want to, be the one that has the most advantage from things. That's why I like things like Austere Command and Farewell a little bit more. And I like Farewell a lot more than I like Austere Command. Especially in certain decks where I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know what? I'm not running in this deck. Artifacts. Well, that's a free hit for me. What's that? What am I not running in this deck? any enchantments. Well, that's a free hit for me. Or maybe I'm running one enchantment. Wow, okay. So I'll lose maybe one enchantment. Or in some decks I might be like, wow, I have one enchantment and one artifact. Wow, that's going to hurt me so much. You know, like... So the worst mode, I guess, would be creatures. But again, that's still fine. Like, and again, not that I don't play with my graveyard, because I do, and I like playing with my graveyard, but still, it's one of those things that, like, well, you know what? My player one of my players that's over there is a Muldrotha player. I would rather them not have their graveyard than me have maybe my graveyard, especially if my graveyard doesn't have a whole lot of stuff in it that's that relevant to me. So yeah, like, it's just one of those things. It's like, well, and if I'm in that awkward position of being like, oh, okay, well, I have no creatures and I'm just in last place and I need some removal, well, you know what? Hey, here's farewell, bye-bye, all creatures, you know, and they're probably not coming back and you don't get any, like, benefits from them and things like that. So, yeah, like, just I love that so much. So, again, anyway, getting back to the point here, because, again, like, that's what I'm saying. There's just so many insane things that not even in the command zone, but just in the 99. Yeah, sure, like, White already had a whole lot of wraths and a whole lot of really good wraths. And again, I'm sure that they'll print some good wraths in the future for White. But again, how much they'll actually want or need those wraths is debatable. And it will always be debatable. That's why, you know, you see those tier lists all the time. Actually, maybe I should do a tier list. Or whatnot. Or the top 10 or something, you know, board wipes or something in White or something. But anyway, that's why you see them updated every year or every now and again, every other set or whatever, because it's like, wow, this other board wipe basically beats out these other board wipes. So, you know, it's a lot better. So we better do another tier list, you know, and things like that. Or put it somewhere on the tier list or whatever. So, yeah, but again, you look at blue and black, they haven't gotten as much stuff recently that's been as OP in a sense. So I do feel like black and blue are sort of starting to slip down a little bit, but realistically, there's so much in black that you can build around and do. Yes, it's all sacrifice, but again, there's so much support for it. So at least you can, you know, figure out what you want to do and do that thing really well. You do have to make those awkward cuts sometimes, being like apples and oranges type thing. Like, is this card better than this card, or this card better than that card? How much buy? Blah, 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 etc., etc. Things like that. So, same like with blue. I think they've actually expanded what they kind of want to do with blue. And that's cool because, like, I would like to play a blue deck that's just, like, completely different. Like, all these, like, weird things like shapeshifters or something or whatnot. Polymorphs or whatever. I don't know. Like, I think, like, they could have a lot of creativity when it comes to the colors now. Because, again, when you've got that... I think it's, like, a design team for, you know, Commander and a play team for Commander. It's like, well, now we can design cards for this format. And sometimes it's like, well, this card's really watered down, but, you know, still it would go in a lot of decks as a pre-con upgrade or a pre-con addition or whatnot, things like that. Some people might run it in more casual games, but then you see other cards that are just like, oh, okay, this is a real contender for, like, legit, you know, decent games that, you know, most people are having nowadays. And then you see some of these cards that are like, oh boy, this is a powerful card. You know, like Bogbear Stash and things like that. Oh, that's a powerful card. Yes, it's not CDH powerful, but still, it's a powerful card. And then you see these cards that are like, yes, this is the CDH card I see. Yes, very good. I will move on. Not for me. Or, for me, thank you very much. So that's the two camps that I always find. Either you're going to go towards it if you're into that stuff, or you're not. Like, okay, cool. But anyway, as I say, it's one of those things that, hey, you can't find a whole lot of stuff that's red specifically. Yes, like a few cards here and there, and whatnot. But again, just not nearly as many or as good or as consistent like as what white has gotten. Every single turn they can get a card and a mana. Like, even though that's still them catching up, like, what what is happening here? That's like one of the things that like if you're playing like some white weenie deck. Okay, cool, my hand's empty. Okay, cool, I passed the turn. What's that? I only had like 3 mana as well because all my stuff is like 1 and 2 drops or whatever. Okay, cool. What's that? My opponent has, 7 cards still in hand because they're basically playing like a legit, deck that actually has, a curve and not all just like 1 and 2 drops or whatever. Okay, cool. Well, that means they have more cards than me. Oh, cool. So I get a free card. Wow. What's that? My opponent also has more mana than me. Oh, what's that? Cool. I get free mana. Wow, cool. Thank you. Excellent. What's that? My next opponent also same thing. Like, so just those inherent advantages that you can just be like, okay, cool. You know what? The way I'm going to build around this is just to go as full throttle as what I can with what, is in my color pie. Okay, cool. What do I have in my color pie? Oh, all of these 1 and 2 drop stuff. Oh, okay, cool. I'm just going to play all of those things. And, it doesn't matter how, like, good-ish they are. It just matters that I basically empty my hand and had this out and be like, okay, cool. Now I just reap rewards every single turn and, then flood the board with more stuff, when the board wipe does happen. Because, again, I'll be behind. And what's that? Oh, cool. Whenever opponents have more creatures than me, hey, I get a free creature. Like, just what? It's just so insane. So, like, yeah, just red has no way to compete with that kind of, like, value that you can kind of get and things like that. Like, oh boy. So yeah, that's where I kind of stand on this, and whatnot. So yeah, you guys can let me know what you think. Am I so super wrong? Which color do you think's the worst or whatnot? You can let me know. Write your thoughts down there in the comments below. Again, I'm not saying red's unplayable. I'm not saying red's terrible or you shouldn't play red or anything like that. I'm just saying from the perspective of what it has within its color pie and what kind of support it has, it's currently lagging the most behind the other colors. And even white is ahead of it now. So that's where I kind of find what I have to say about it. I'd like to see all the colors be equally as, viable in a way. And yeah, but that's it. But anyway, yeah, I do love to talk to you guys when you do comment. And yeah, I love to comment about EDH and all the geeky things that we all love. So yeah, if I don't see you down there in those comments, I'll see you down in the next one.